2017 was a pivotal moment in my life. As everyone has heard, I was a leader of an organization. I was still doing a lot of work globally for other organizations, helping support, growth and mindset. I really considered myself a mindset coach. Well, as the crazy way that this universe works, right when you're really comfortable and thinking like I've got it made, my life is perfect, and I'm using air quotes of perfect, right? Then there was a huge change. What that change is my husband and I love live music and we're country music fans, which is really funny because a lot of country music can be a little bit of a downer, right? And here I am as a mental strengthening coach and I love hearing all of these down stories and country songs, right? So it's funny, but we flew out to Las Vegas and attended the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, which is better known today as the Las Vegas mass shooting. So we were there the night of October 1st, 2017, when a person unleashed 11 minutes of chaos on a crowd of 22,000. And my husband and I were at the event and actually got separated during the shooting. Saw a lot of things that I was mentally not prepared to see or be a witness to. But what happened is it's not about the event from that night. And the whole intro of my book talks about keep effing going. It was really my motto that night for survival. I was running for my life. I have 3 children and they were imprinted in my mind of I have to run, I have to get out of here, I have to get home to them. So that was my motto that night for survival. Keep fucking going, Krista. Keep running, keep running, keep running.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lou Kaiser, author of The River Only Runs One Way and The Far Unlit Unknown, 2 books available right now at your favorite online book retailer. Check them out and make them your companions on the next leg of your leadership journey. Also, keep an eye out for details about my next book coming later this summer. It's the one I didn't plan to write until something bigger than me had other ideas. More to come soon. Okay, are you ready to be inspired? Because the woman you are about to hear is truly a powerhouse of resilience and leadership. Her name is Krista Ryan. She is a dynamic speaker, author, and workplace performance expert. She's also a 3rd-generation owner and former human resources director of her family's bank. Krista brings nearly 2 decades of experience in the financial industry to her work, but her journey took a transformative turn after surviving the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival tragedy in Las Vegas. Many of you listening may remember that awful concert where a shooter opened up on the crowd and Krista was there. And so you're going to hear her story of that. That event led her to develop the Keep Fucking Going, also known as the KfG method, a motivational framework designed to help individuals and organizations thrive through chaos and change. Krista's insights have empowered everyone from C-suite executives to entrepreneurs to elite athletes and more. She's also the CEO and founder of KfG Coaching, LLC, a Bravely Pro coach, and a room tilter with Limitless Minds. Her book, Keep Fucking Going, A Formula to Live Better and Lead Stronger Through Chaos and Change, encapsulates her philosophy and strategies for turning adversity into strength. You can find Krista on LinkedIn and on her website, links to connect with her and get her book are in the show notes. When you connect, let her know you heard her here on the Play Your Position podcast. All right, team, are you ready for kickoff? I know I am. Let's go. All right. Well, Krista, you and I were just talking about the concept of leadership, and I know you have a video on LinkedIn that I saw that is really provocative about what is a leader, what is leadership. We're going to get to that in a minute, but first, will you please set the stage for us and tell us your story about when you first got the call to leadership? How old were you, and what was going on in your life at the time as you remember it? And then if you wouldn't mind connecting the dots to what you do today as a coach and an influencer.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, it's a loaded question, Mary Lou, to be honest with you, because I grew up in a family of leaders. So I'm fourth generation family business owner. So my whole entire life, my entire childhood, I was exposed to what leadership was for me and for my family. So I've always been around leaders, strong leaders, really powerful, caring, loving leaders. So I've had a really great representation of what leadership is, even as a young child. Now, it's kind of changed form throughout the years. I actually never saw myself as a leader until there was a point in my childhood, and I'll never forget it. I was in band. I played the clarinet, and I remember my band instructor pulled me aside, and he said, "Krista, your peers really look up to you. They really are watching you. They are kind of like observing how you are. I need you to really step into this leadership role and help guide this band." And I remember thinking, like, not me. I'm not a great, I don't play well. I'm like seventh chair. I'm certainly not the first chair, So even though I was exposed to all of these great leaders in regards to my mom, my father, my grandfather, I never saw myself as a leader until that moment. And I remember thinking, what? So leadership really has changed for me. And I really embraced that responsibility. I really embraced that role. And what I realized is we all have the ability to be leaders. Every single one of us has the ability to show up as a leader of our life, of our career, our path, our relationships. And through kind of that mental shift, I started to embrace the idea that, you know what, maybe as a 13-year-old, I can be a leader in some way, shape, and form. I can help inspire others. And I really fell in love with the whole concept of leadership and what that means for each of us, because we all have the ability to be a leader.
Yeah. Yeah. You're totally speaking my language. And one of the fundamental themes here at Play Your Position is, you show up and you be yourself, you win. And that is as a leader of your life, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
How can you get anything else done if you don't take that role seriously, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the whole idea of being a leader of our life, being a leader of helping impact others. I truly believe that we are on this earth to inspire, impact, and be in service for others. I really do. That's ingrained in my soul. I believe that's why we're all here, is to connect and be a part of this human experience with each other. And that really involves leadership. You have to be able to lead your life in a way that can create this powerful impact, not just for yourself, but for your legacy and for those that you're connected to. So I fell in love with the whole leadership concept at a very early age. Now, how it's really shaped my life and my future is the decision to embrace it, because we can choose to be leaders and we can choose to be a follower, right?
Yep.
I decided I want to be a leader. I'm excited to be a leader because it's the best way I can impact others. And it's really changed and transformed my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, that conscious choice versus just following along. Nothing wrong with the autopilot. There are lots of people that do it.
Yeah.
Listeners of PYP are not that way. We're all about the active decision recognizing that every day we have a chance to serve. And
Yes.
I think it's interesting, your story, how it took somebody from the outside to recognize something in you, your teacher,
Yeah.
your band leader, noticed something about you and made a point of pointing it out. And
Yes.
that has been a consistent pattern I've noticed in many guests, is that, we're living our lives just kind of going along, doing our thing. And then somebody from the outside notices and brings it to our attention and either taps you on the shoulder, which happened to you, and said, hey, listen, we really, look, people are looking up to you. And it's kind of
Yeah.
that awareness that you didn't have before. So I'd love for you to talk about the role of self-awareness in leadership in general, Krista, and also how that has impacted your path.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my first remembrance of the first tap. The second and probably more impactful, powerful tap actually came from my father. So
Okay.
after I graduated high school, I went to a private college. I got my communications degree. I'm a talker. I love to communicate and connect with others. So it's no surprise that my degree is in communications. And I started working for a large financial organization. My father, I'll never forget, he called me and he said, will you come back? Will you stop messing around here? Will you come back and take over the family business? That was a huge ask. I'm already in the financial world. He owned and operated a community bank. It was a big ask. Now, I grew up thinking like, I'm going to, spread my wings. There's no way I'm staying involved in the family business. As all young children probably rebel against the idea of staying connected. And so as I was asked this powerful question of, will you come back and lead this organization? It was a huge ask. It was a big risk. But again, my father was the second person. I mean, my parents were probably the first person to pull this leadership, mentality out of me. But that was a big ask and a big responsibility. And I remember thinking, really? You trust, you have faith in this journey? You think you see me as a leader? And so took a lot of courage, took a huge leap of faith. I had a 3-month-old child at the time. My husband and I lived in a different state. And we decided together to pick up and come back. And we agreed to do it a 5-year test. Let's see how this plays out. And came back, and just having someone believe in me, having someone offer the amazing opportunity to really show and lean into who is Krista Ryan as a leader. Let's see how this works. It was, career and life changing, because it really showed someone believed in me. Someone's giving me the access to this opportunity. And I learned a lot along the way. It was not an easy road right off the beginning. I had to learn. I'm a young leader. Some of the employees in the organization had been there for 30 plus years. Now, all of a sudden, here I am as a young 25-year-old stepping into this leadership role. I had a lot of the imposter voice going on, a lot of the expectations to prove my way, So it really, it's just such a gift to be allowed the opportunity to fail forward and learn what does and does not work as a leader for an organization, and really embrace the uniqueness. We're all very unique in our leadership ability and style. And mine really changed throughout the years. And it's really what brought me to where we're at today, falling into the obsession of helping support our employees to spread their wings and grow and flourish and just find such joy in their everyday. I became obsessed with it. I became absolutely obsessed with it. So that actually led me into the human resources director role, which I stayed and did that for 18 years at the organization that my husband and I own and operate. And then I quickly realized the pivotal moment of turning point and change in my career was I realized I had a unique gift to help support and bring out the skill sets of others. And I think that's one of my most powerful skills as a leader. But I was doing it in the wrong organization, because I was an owner of this business. And there was already a little bit of a conflict of interest there as their human resources manager. So what I did is I leaned into this skill that I was obsessed with in supporting others. And I went out and started doing it for other organizations. And it's really how I became a workplace performance coach. And it's my obsession to support others in their blind spots and just watching them fulfill their dreams as a leader, but more importantly, and most importantly, become the best version of themselves for their lives. And it's just absolutely the most joy I could ever be gifted in my life.
Yeah. So team, I know you can't see Krista's face because you're listening to this, but she lights up as she talks about these gifts that she's channeling. And that's really, I think, the mark of the highest level of self-awareness is being able to align what you know you're here to do and then actually doing it, not just thinking about it, not just saying someday or once X is done, the kids have left, I have the money, the sun stops rising in the east. I mean, whatever the reason is, it's now is the time. And that is going to segue me into your book, Krista, because that is at the heart of what you do now. Again, team, you can't see me. I'll put a link to this in her show notes page because you're going to want to get a copy of this book. It's called, and just you guys know me here. Every now and then we're going to be dropping some words. It's called "Keep Fucking Going: A Step-by-Step Guide to Successfully Navigate Change." And this book came about because of an extraordinarily devastating life event that you experienced. So could you, in as succinct a way as you can without losing the power of it, tell us the story of what happened to you in October of 2017 and how that really did turn the tables in your life, Krista?
Yes, absolutely. So 2017 was a pivotal moment in my life. As everyone has heard, I was a leader of an organization. I was still doing a lot of work globally for other organizations, helping support, growth and mindset. I really considered myself a mindset coach. Well, as the crazy way that this universe works, right when you are really comfortable and thinking like I've got it made, my life is perfect, and I'm using air quotes of perfect, right? Then there was a huge change. What that change is my husband and I love live music and we're country music fans, which is really funny because a lot of country music can be a little bit of a downer, right? And here I am as a mental strengthening coach and I love hearing all these like down stories and country songs, right?
Right.
So it's funny, but we flew out to Las Vegas and attended the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, which is better known today as the Las Vegas mass shooting. So we were there the night of October 1st, 2017, when a person unleashed, 11 minutes of chaos on a crowd of 22,000.
Yeah.
And my husband and I were at the event and actually got separated during the shooting. Saw a lot of things that I was mentally not prepared to see or be a witness to. But what happened is it's not about the event from that night. And the whole intro of my book talks about keep effing going. It was really my motto that night for survival. I was running for my life.
Yes.
I have 3 children and they were imprinted in my mind of I have to run, I have to get out of here, I have to get home to them. So that was my motto that night for survival. Keep fucking going, Krista. Keep running, keep running, keep running. Well, what that quickly transitioned into the next 2 years, I really had to do a deep dive. I really started to investigate myself because here I am. I'm a leader of an organization. I've got a team of people that need me, right? So, and I got really, really stuck. So I became a fraud to my own mission because I was supporting employees of organizations globally in success and thriving. And myself, I was really sabotaging myself and sacrificing myself because I was avoiding what I needed to do to really support and love myself and forgive myself to get through that event. It took about 2 years to really figure out how to navigate that huge breakdown and really create space to, you know what, darn it, Krista, you get to create the next steps of this plan, right? You get to create a breakthrough, but it really was a lot of work. And it's the reason that I wrote this book is a lot of these organizations that I was supporting started asking, like, you know, what was going through your mind that night during the shooting? You know, what was happening? And I said, all I could think is keep fucking going, keep effing going, keep effing going, which is why it's the title of my book, right?
Yeah.
And then they started saying, can you teach my team? Can you teach my staff the steps that you took to get to the other side? So in my mind, I thought, all I got to do is get home, get back to my regular life. That was so false. That was so false. I was a whole different person based on what I had witnessed that night. But I'll never forget the pivotal turning moment for me. I was watching my career really take an impact. I was watching my mental health really, really take a beating. I was watching my marriage. You know, when you go through something like that, a lot of times people think, oh, it's going to bring you guys so close together. You witnessed something so horrific. It did not, based on the way I was choosing to respond. We were actually being divided, you know, and I was putting a ton of judgment on the way my husband was processing. And I was, you know, blaming and complaining because, again, I was avoiding myself. Yeah. I remember the moment where it really just like hit me that I was given another chance. 58 people lost their lives that night. It still today stands as America's largest mass shooting. So 58 people were not gifted this second chance. I was, but I was also, the way I was choosing to respond to that event by really self-sabotage, I was still allowing the person that did this the win. And I remember thinking, no way, like, I am not going to let that moment define me in my life, because if I choose to do so, if I choose to self-destruct and not pull myself up, you know, and figure this out for myself, guess what? He still wins. And I was like, no way. I remember just thinking, absolutely not. Now is the time for me to do that really deep dive, dissect myself and figure out what I need to do to get to that other side. And that's really where the birth of these 3 steps in that book came from, because it worked for me. It changed my life. And it's a simple step-by-step process, but it's hard because it's so much of this self-love, forgiveness, and work on the daily. And I tell you what, I'm proud to say I stand here today, and I'm so grateful that I was chosen to be involved in that event, because I had the tools in my toolkit to get through it. I just had to learn how to access them. And we all do. We all have the ability to navigate challenging things. We just have to take the accountability to access them.
We do. And I'm going to have you in a minute take us through those steps, because I think it's a very powerful and simple framework that people listening right now could actually do today, right?
Yes.
It's powerful. But before we do that, first of all, I want to acknowledge how I'm moved by how you were able to, through time and processing and some deep work, come to that ability to flip a very traumatic, tragic event and see it that you were chosen to be a part of it. Most people wouldn't do that. And that's a really special message that I think we could apply to any experience. Certainly, most of us will never experience what you and your husband and all those 22,000 others did that night. However, we're in the infancy of understanding the effects of trauma on our brains, on our hearts, on our bodies, on the way that we think about the world. And doing that hard work really is the only way through.
Absolutely.
And not for nothing, you know, you were able to get through it in 2 years. There are people that it takes a lifetime And
does.
there's some people who never get there because they either don't have access to the tools, they don't have a support system, they didn't have, like, you already had some training under your belt. You understood this mindset thing, this 6 inches between our ears, which it's our control system for everything, right?
Yes.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
I think about, as we're recording this, all the people whose lives are impacted by the wildfires in California, in the LA, and just the massive trauma massive trauma is the catalyst for change. It sucks that sometimes it takes something of that magnitude to kind of smack us in the face. And if we're lucky, like you were, to get a second chance, that's when you have to say, what am I going to do with this? And that's what you've done. And it's right here in this book. So take us through, Krista. What is this? Describe this little system that you have and how listeners can apply it to whatever they're struggling with right now.
Yeah. Well, in the formula itself, I call it the KfG. It's a movement, is what it is. It's really a movement. It's a movement to embrace, embody, and to take action through. So it starts as keep effing going, right? And that's the whole, we need to do this in the moment for survival. And it becomes a movement. And the way it's broken down through the step-by-step process is K stands for know. And that means knowing where you are and being honest with yourself. Because when we navigate something challenging, when our stress levels go up, the first thing we do is we fake it till we make it, because that's what we've been told, fake it till we make it. Don't show any kind of weakness or sadness, or don't let anyone in on this, secret that you're really struggling. That's a bunch of BS, and it really can get us stuck. And that's where I stayed stuck for 2 years, is I was faking it, not being real with myself. And really, that is such a sabotage, and you're sacrificing this day, this moment that we're gifted on earth. So the first step is having the awareness and having the accountability that this is where I'm at. And you know what? It's okay because you're aware of it. And now that you have the awareness, now you can start working on what's the next step. What do I do? And I think of the whole KFG formula, that first step, you can't skip over it. You cannot skip over it. I tried to for years.
There's no hack. There's no shortcut.
You have to start with yourself and being honest with yourself and saying, you know what, I'm really having a tough time. Yeah. I'm really having a challenging time. And once you start to acknowledge and love yourself enough to admit that, that's where all the beauty can start. That's your starting point. Now, it's not easy because we all know where we are, in our journey of life. I had to really take a step back. And, for years, even as a child, I always told myself a story in my head that if there was ever a crisis or a moment in time, I would be a helper, right? Fred Rogers always says, look for the helpers, look for the helpers. Right. I identified myself as one of those people. The night of this shooting, I was not a helper. I was running for my life. And I'm going to be completely honest with you and your listeners here, because we're in this together, right? I ran over the top of people that were really hurt, and they were calling out for help, and they were looking for someone to give them a hand. And I'm talking hundreds, 58 lost their lives, but there were hundreds that were shot. And I clearly remember running over the top of some of these individuals that were crying out for help. I had to do a lot of work to forgive myself. There was a sense of, Krista, why didn't you help? Why weren't you one of the helpers? And there was thousands of us that had the same self-forgiveness. We have to realize that in that moment, I did what I needed to do to survive.
Exactly. That's instinct. That's,
Yep.
I mean, it's only in hindsight that you can, put these, I don't know, expectations on yourself. But in the moment, nobody knows
No one
how
knows.
we're going to respond.
No.
And I think it's baked into being an animal
Yes.
that it's called fight or flight. You are flying out of there.
Yes. And it's just so humbling now. The more I'm open with this story, the more I share it, the more information that comes back to me. And I got connected with a law enforcement officer, and he actually lost his partner that night in the shooting. And he heard my formula and he reached out to me and he said, Krista, I lost my partner that night. He was one of those that was in the crowd helping others. And he said, I heard you talk about the first step of your formula and the need to really forgive yourself. And he said, I want you to know the people that were helping that night were trained to do so. They were the ones that they were either law enforcement officers, EMTs, military.
Right, first responders.
They're first responders. They're the ones that stayed in the trenches because that was their call to duty. And he said, if you had done that, you may have been another casualty. And so many hundreds and hundreds more as well. So he said, you did your job and your responsibility that night in the way that you were supposed to. And once I heard that feedback, I thought, wow. And that's where I forgave myself. I'm like, you know what? I didn't have the tools to do what they were doing. So I would have, in hindsight, I would have probably been creating more of a chaotic mess, right? And getting myself injured and then having someone have to lean and help me instead of helping someone else. So we all did what we needed to do in that moment. But it took the connecting with others to see these blind spots in ourselves. That is one of the biggest lessons learned through this whole process is we're not supposed to figure this out on our own.
Or all at once.
No.
You can't know the whole how the story ends. I mean, if you think about that, the last thing I want to know, is, okay, Mary Lou, here's the blueprint of your life. Here's your expiration date. Now go to it. Oh my, can you imagine? Right. And so it's, your story is so compelling for so many reasons. And starting with that, you've got to know who you are, where you are right now. So that's step one. Now, the second step is what?
The second step is the F. So KFG is the theme, the methodology.
Right. So know who you are and where you are.
Yep. So once you're like, I know where I'm at, I know who I am accountable, and I'm aware. Okay, locked and loaded. Now you can move to the second step, which is the F, and that is all about the focus. So how are you choosing to show up through this change? It's a choice. You get to choose how you show up today, no matter what is happening to you, right? There's always going to be a change. There's always going to be something that's thrown your way. It's how you choose to show up through it. So it's all about your intentions and setting those intentions, being like, you know what? Today's a hard day. What do I get to choose to do with it? It's a choice. It's a choice.
Yes.
And it's all about the intentions, and then really how to shift to neutral, right? So you don't have to have this toxic positivity of, I'm fine, everything's fine, my marriage is perfect, I'm the best wife and mother ever. That's toxic positivity, is a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're under stress and pressure, we always want to go negative. The world is terrible and everything's happening to me, and, blame and complain. There's this beautiful space on the in-between that's called neutral. And that's just looking at true, honest facts, and saying, okay, now that I know where I'm at and the choices and how I respond, I get to choose how to move forward. And the power of choice is the most powerful gift we all have.
It is.
And we all get to choose every single day how to show up in our lives. We all have the choice of that. Nobody can take that away. Nobody. It's been the biggest awareness. We all know this, but until we're like up against the wall and saying like, okay, well, Now show me, I don't want to hear you talking the talk. I want to see you walking the walk.
Right.
That is the transition moment of all of our lives. Like, okay, no one can take the power of choice away from me. I get to choose how I spend this day, this moment.
Yeah. And then what's the G?
And the G is go. Once we know what to do you know how many of us get stuck and just are like, no, I'm too scared. I'm not going to take action.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people get stopped before they even get started.
Absolutely. So once we know what we need to do, what will support us best, it's picking up that phone call and calling a therapist. It's reaching out to your best friend saying, I'm having a really tough day. I know this is going to help me out, but I got to do it. I have to go. So the last step is all about taking action, leaning in with courage, and not worrying about the result, because that will just happen. Don't.
That's out of our hands.
That's out of our hands. But if you don't try, if you don't take action, nothing's going to change.
I love it. So know, focus, and go. KNOW. Know who you are, where you're at. Then focus on what you can do. Make the choice in the moment, even if it's hard, and neutral. I like that. That is a gear available in a car and in our lives. And I think I know from, again, having so many interviews with so many leaders over so many years that it is hard for leaders to go into neutral or, we want to be accelerating. We want to be always moving, growing. And there's guilt and in some cases, I think shame around not doing anything, like being idle for a little while.
Yes.
And yet, if you don't grant yourself that time, you're going to end up grinding your gears to the point where you can't even operate the darn machine anymore.
Spot on. That is the power in the pause. Everybody, if you don't know what to do, pause. That is an action.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I always tell people, if you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and you've got a million things going on, that is your moment. The best action step for you to do is pause. And that pause might be an hour, it might be a day, it might be 5 minutes, but that in that space is where freedom lies. So there's so much power in the pause.
And changing your environment in the pause, even if it's just driving to the next town over. You don't have to go on a trip, get on a plane or whatever, or even just taking a walk outside. Just get out of that space that you're in.
Yes.
I've learned when I just get out of the house for a little while, because I work from home. Yeah. I live in my home, right? I'm here all the time. And when I start to feel that restlessness and grumpiness, I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I need to get out. Yes. And that just an hour, like you said, it's you come back feeling, okay, I'm home now. And it feels welcoming again instead of stifling. So
I always tell people,
powerful.
If you're able to step outside, and I always hear, I live in Minnesota. So I always hear, it's 30 below. I'm not going outside. I'm like, you know what? Take a pause. Go fill up your lungs with that cold air, because what that's going to do is it's going to remind you that you're alive.
Yeah.
We forget in the moments like, wait a minute, I'm alive. I get to choose this moment, this life. Yeah. So sometimes just shocking the system, getting outside and getting a deep breath of fresh air can reset your whole day. And the reset is part of this formula. If you think that you're going to go through this formula KFG and you're done, you're just at the start. Like at the end of the KFG, guess what? You're on a new path. You're in a new place in your life. So now it's time to KFG again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love simple frameworks like this because they're easy to remember. And when, again, the chaos of life takes over, sometimes we just need that jolt. KFG. Okay, where am I at right now? What do I need to focus on right now? And what action can I take right now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you, so we're gonna take a little spin for a moment. So bear with me. This KFG book. Now, I wrote this 3 years ago. It finally was published September of this past year, but I wrote it 3 years ago. So it's been a while to finally come out.
Yes.
Now that it's out, I'm actually in a place in my life where I'm looking at it and I'm realizing I wrote this book for my future self. because I am KFGing right now in my own life more than I ever have before. So I'll share this story with your listeners. In May of 2024, so 8 months ago, I was sitting in the salon chair. I was actually, your listeners can't see me. I used to be bleach blonde and I'm very dark hair right now. I'm a brunette. I'm a natural color. I was still
and it's
sitting,
beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. I was sitting in my salon chair and I got a call that came through and I could see it was my doctor. And I don't know about you, but I listen to my gut more than I do my head and my heart. And I got this gut feeling and it told me, Krista, go to the restroom and take this call in the bathroom. And during the next 13 minutes, my doctor walked me through a couple tests I had done 3 days prior to, which turned out to be a diagnosis of rectal cancer.
Wow.
This came out of left field. Now, I don't have symptoms or any kind of signs of colorectal cancer. So this absolutely turned my world upside down. And to be 100% honest with you, the first thing I did in that bathroom is I paused and I took about 7 really deep breaths. And immediately I started to access KFG. I thought, okay, awareness and accountability. I was given this diagnosis in the bathroom. I'm at the salon, like
no
of
irony
all things.
there.
Yep. And I thought, okay, so I know where I'm at. This is a heavy moment for me. What do I need to do? And I started working the KFG steps. I came out of the restroom. I found my stylist. I said, get these foils out of my hair. We're going all natural. And she didn't know what had happened, but she knew it was heavy. And she said, Krista, are you okay? And I said, I'm not right now, but I will be. So that was the first honest where I'm at. So drove home, talked to my husband. It was actually 3 days before my son graduated high school. So we decided to get through the graduation, have all the people to our house for the graduation party, and then talk to our 3 children, let them know what's going on, share this journey, and KFG. So it was a whole turning point. And now I'm so grateful for these steps because they are supporting me on a really challenging diagnosis. I have stage 3 rectal cancer and I'm KFG every single day. And again, because of these steps and because of the support and my community and those that are there with me in this journey, I can honestly, in my heart of hearts, say that I am so grateful I was chosen for this journey because I have the tools to access and get through it and KFG and share my story with others so that they are also aware, you know what? We have the ability to handle absolutely everything that comes our way. And it's through our choice of how we show up through it.
It is. I'm a little emotional here because it's such a brave story. It's such a vulnerable story. And it's we never know, right? I mean, we just go about our lives and things. We like to think we're in control and we're not. We can only control our thoughts, going back to something you said before. And getting a call like that has to be just earth-shattering. And yet, look what you did because of the sequence of events of your life.
Yeah.
And I know from what I've seen on LinkedIn, you're living out loud with your journey. You're sharing what's happening as you go through the process of chemotherapy and healing and specialists and and yet you're maintaining your positive attitude, not in a toxic way, but in the KFG way, which I'm glad you brought up that word toxic or that phrase toxic positivity, because I've seen it a lot this last week in response to the LA wildfires that people are saying we don't need a bunch of toxic positivity right now. What we need is just people to acknowledge that we're hurting and anything anybody can do, which I think is for some people a natural response, but others, they're trained to see the bright side, right? And, you're going to make it and you're going to do it. And we don't know that to be true.
No. No,
We don't
and
know that to be true.
no, and I love that you bring that to light through this whole journey, through my life. I don't believe that things happen for a reason, right? So a lot of times people say like, "Oh, everything happens for a reason."
Right.
For me, that's toxic positivity. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? It's not fair. It's not fair. Life is
Yeah.
not fair.
It's not.
And sometimes I'm like, no, everything doesn't happen for a reason, but we have the ability to choose what to make of what's happening. So
Right.
that's the power of what we get to do. But does it happen for a reason? I don't like that saying. That's toxic positivity for me. Now, everyone, if that supports you, go with it, please. Everyone's very different. But for me, I'm like, no, sometimes things happen. There is no reason behind it and it's not fair, period.
Yeah. I always
Yep.
think of the that opening scene of The Lion King, the original Disney Lion King, where Scar is talking to his little sidekick bird. I can't think of his bird's name, but anyway, he says, "Life's not fair, is it?" And
Yeah.
the bird's like, "No, it really is." I mean, that story is archetypal on so many levels, which is, I think, one of the reasons it has remained part of our culture, because it really does shed light on the choices. You can choose destruction like Scar did. You can choose greed and misery and punishing other people because you yourself are hurting, or you can choose to show up in the light, even if it's dark. If your candle can still burn, the flame may not be as brilliant as it has been at other times, but you can still choose to light that candle. And that's not toxic positivity. That's just making a choice to either see what's good here, even though it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Or you can choose to just I just think of what he did. He just completely destroyed Pride Rock, and it just became this apocalyptic wasteland. And again, the moral of the story is obviously don't run away. Like, Simba ran away, but that's youth, and that's part of the journey.
Absolutely. And the power, one of the greatest gifts of my whole entire life is that through these hard times, the most challenging times, the greatest beauty has been exposed.
Yes.
It has. Like, thank God for these moments that are challenging, because some of the most beautiful, I believe in angels on earth, and they are exposing themselves. They're stepping into the light, and I would never have been exposed to them if I hadn't been given the opportunity to navigate some of these hard times. I would never have been introduced to some of these individuals that are now part of my life, and that is the purpose of living. That is that we are so connected. And once you learn the power of love, and that when we're going through hard times, no one's ever alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. We're all navigating this messy. I love to say life is a beautiful mess, because it is. It's a beautiful mess. It's a disaster sometimes. And it's absolutely gorgeous because of who shows up and how many people are here to support us. That is the biggest gift.
It is. It is. And you are such a gift. Your smile, your wisdom, your willingness to share, that I think is one of your biggest gifts, is that you aren't keeping this to yourself, but you are living out loud. You wrote a book, you put it into the world. That's a scary step for a lot of people, because in this book, you're sharing vulnerabilities. You're talking about your life. You're talking about a time when, in hindsight, you feel you were critical of yourself, even though that's not fair. What we do that to ourselves. We look back, why didn't I, whatever. And now you're modeling this fight against an unseen force that you didn't expect or ask for, and yet it showed up. And what are you going to do? And so for people, first of all, where can people get the book, Krista? Where do you hang out online? How can people, get into your world a little bit more?
Yeah. The easiest place to find me is on my website. It's where you can access my book. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do a Mindful Monday email blast and a video. I love speaking. So I do videos every Monday and just remind you of your value, your worth, your importance. Please show up in this life of yours. We need you. The world needs you. Yeah. So join me on that journey. It's at KristaRyan.com is my website. Mm-hmm. And we all have KFG stories. Every single one of us has a story. And, the power of sharing our stories. Well, someone shared their story with me, which saved my life. I never would have gotten tested about having, colorectal cancer. So honestly, someone sharing their story and their cancer journey literally saved my life. So the power of us just staying connected and sharing stories is such a gift. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I love hanging out with my LinkedIn family. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, through KristaRyan.com.
Great. And team, links to connect with Krista will be on her show notes page at pyppodcast.com. But honestly, right below, wherever you're listening to this right now, the link is right there. Just poke it. Connect with her on LinkedIn, go to her website, get on her newsletter list, and by all means, get this book, Keep Fucking Going. It really is an incredible guide, but you also will read the full details of what happened that night. And I think that's how we learn best, is through other people's stories. And we have to ask ourselves, we don't know what we would do when faced with a crisis. And sometimes remembering what someone else did when we are facing one can give us enough of a leverage to go, I can do this. I can keep fucking going. And it's brilliant. And you are a beautiful soul. You are one of the angels walking among us. I feel so honored I got to talk with you today. And before we say goodbye, Krista, is there anything that you didn't get to say today that you'd like to end our conversation with?
I think just please remember that we're in this together. You're never alone, and we are better and stronger together. So reach out to me, reach out for support. We can do hard things. We're actually built for this. We can do hard things. So thank you for having me. It's been such a gift and such an honor, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.